the second consecutive week, we have a winning record. That's right, 6-4 against the spread. The Big 12 was mighty kind to me as I won 4 of my 5 Big 12 games against the spread. Outside of conference play, went only 2-3, but overall documented 6-4 against the spread. The coin, by the way, went 5-5. So, with only 5 weeks to go, I now have a 4-game lead over the almighty penny. Ladies and gentlemen, apologize for getting on so late. We wanted to make sure that we beat our deadline. No, it's been one hectic week around these parts for yours truly, but better late than never. Time now for my picks for the week. Let's begin in the Big 12. Baylor at Oklahoma State. Who would have thought a few weeks ago that this game would have Big 12 South ramifications? It certainly does. It's an important game because both Baylor and OSU have a loss apiece in the Big 12 South along with OU. They're all in first place. So this game in Stillwater on Saturday, very important. Baylor, remember something. Even though they're having a magical year, they're 7-2, I know. They're going to go to a bowl game. Remember, they haven't had an off week yet this year. Their off week doesn't come until the season's over. So, you know, that has to mount on them, especially playing on the road this week, coming off a big win over Texas just a few days ago. Oklahoma State, in the meantime, playing at home and getting Justin Blackmon, their all-everything wide receiver, back after he was suspended a week ago for being arrested. He's back. Oklahoma State's offense is going to be too much for Baylor. I do look for it to be a high-scoring game, but I look for Oklahoma State to come through and cover the 8.5 in this game. So give me Oklahoma State minus the 8.5. If the coin lands on heads, it likes the favorite. Tails, it likes the underdog. And in this case, it's going to go with the favorite. It's going to go with Oklahoma State. Nebraska is at Iowa State. Last year, the Huskers only scored 7 points against the Cyclones, and they turned the ball over 8 times, including 4 turnovers inside the Iowa State 5, basically handing Iowa State that game on a silver platter, and one of the biggest upsets last season in all of college football. Can we expect another upset between these two teams the last time they're going to play for a long time? The answer is no. Nebraska is a 17-point favorite. And you're going to see why. Taylor Martinez is going to have a huge game. In fact, I look for Roy Hillard Jr. to continue his incredible season after rushing for over 300 yards last week in the win over Mizzou. Iowa State, remember last time they had a big game at home? It was against Utah. Utah scored 68 points on them. I look for Nebraska to really roll it up against the Cyclones. Give me Nebraska to get revenge on Iowa State and to cover the 17 points. The coin, by the way, likes Iowa State. Texas is at Kansas State. The Longhorns favored by only 4 points, and there's a reason why. Because Texas hasn't done anything worth a darn in the last few weeks, losing 3 of their last 4. Good news, though, for Texas. They're playing this game away from Austin. This team seems to play better recently away from home. That's kind of weird, but it's true. They're playing in Manhattan. Kansas State can run the ball very well, but the quarterback, Carson Kaufman, stinks big time. So I look for Texas in this game. Don't be surprised if they heavily rely on the run. I look for the Longhorns in prime time to win and get out of their slump. Give me Texas minus the 4 in Manhattan, while the coin is going to go with Texas too. Missouri is at Texas Tech. This is a primetime game as well. I cannot figure out for the life of me why Missouri is only favored by 4.5 in this game. I cannot figure it out. Missouri has a high potent passing attack. Texas Tech, their biggest weakness is pass defense. I look for Mizzou to carve up the Red Raider defense. Texas Tech also has a slew of injuries. Look for Mizzou to win big in Lubbock. Give me Missouri minus 4.5. In fact, that's going to be my overall lock of the week, maybe my lock of the month. Missouri minus the 4.5. The coin is going to take Missouri as well. The coin's pretty smart too. And then Kansas hosting Colorado. Neither team's won a conference game. Something's got to give, and by the way, it might shock you, this game will not be televised. Thank you, TV gods. If I have to go with a bad team in this case, I'm going to take Colorado. The Buffaloes, I know, are going to be favored by a noticeable margin. In fact, as I look at my sheet, they're a 9-point favorite to defeat the Jayhawks. I will take mediocrity over horrific, which in this case, Colorado is mediocre. Take the Buffaloes plus, it's going to be minus the 9. The Buffaloes giving 9 in this case to Kansas, who may not win a game for the rest of the season. In fact, I don't think they will. Colorado minus the 9, while the coin in this case is going to go with Colorado. Talking about the non-conference slate, TCU at Utah. One of the biggest games of the season because both teams undefeated, both teams ranked in the top 5. The winner has serious aspirations of getting to the national championship game. TCU, I know, has a really good defense. They played well all season long. The quarterback is experienced in Andy Dalton, but the game is at Salt Lake City. High altitude could be a factor. And remember, Utah has one of the longest home winning streaks in college football. They've won over 20 straight in Salt Lake. I'll look for Utah with those factors to at least cover the spread, which in this case, give me Utah plus the 5 points, while the coin is going to take TCU. Another big game, this one coming out of the SEC, Alabama at LSU. Nick Saban going back to his old hunting grounds in Baton Rouge against the Tigers. I know that Alabama defensively has had issues this year, a lot of new faces. But the bottom line is LSU has even bigger issues with pass offense. They cannot throw the ball to save their skin. That will bite them in this game. I look for Alabama to win and to cover the 6.5. So give me the Tide minus the 6.5. The coin is going to go with Alabama too. Arkansas at South Carolina, a very difficult game to analyze. The Gamecocks are favored by 4.5 points. I'm going to go with South Carolina because of their running game and because of the fact that they have much more on the line than Arkansas. South Carolina still has a legitimate shot at winning that division, as bad as it might be. And to get to the SEC championship game, they need a win. I think they'll get it at home. So give me South Carolina, the Gamecocks minus 4.5. The coin is going to go with Arkansas. 2 other games to talk about. Arizona is at Stanford. A couple of top 20 teams battling in Palo Alto. High-scoring game, you can expect it. Stanford's only loss this year came at the hands of Oregon, who hasn't lost to anybody, and I don't think Oregon's going to lose to anybody the rest of the year the way things are looking. The Cardinal should be able to rack up a lot of points against Arizona's defense, which has not been as good as I thought it was going to be. The Cardinal to cover the 8.5 points in this game, while the coin is going to go in this case with Stanford too. And finally, one other game to chit-chat about. That's going to be Hawaii at Boise State. Why are we analyzing this game? Because Boise's at home and they're favored. I think they're favored by 21 points. They're actually favored by 21.5 to beat Hawaii. But Hawaii, believe it or not, is 7-2 on the season, playing much better now than they did in September. Passing attack has improved big time. And I think Hawaii, because they have been able to rack up points, remember they also upset Nevada not too long ago, who was ranked in the top 25. Hawaii's going to lose this game. I think 21.5 just way too much. And I think Boise isn't going to cover this week. They'll win, but they're not going to cover. So I give me Hawaii plus the 21.5 points for the week. And the coin just dropped it out of my hand to get it real fast. Let's go ahead and flip it. And the coin is going to take Boise State this week. So the coin and I had some differentiations. We'll see how we both did when you join me next week at this time for the Big 12 matchups and then some.